Have you ever felt like you were on a perfectly clear path, heading exactly where you needed to go, and then suddenly, wham! A massive storm hits, everything goes sideways, and you completely lose sight of your destination?
Oh, absolutely. That feeling is, well, it's pretty universal, isn't it? Plans just falling apart.
Totally. And today we're diving into this really powerful, ancient story about a journey that gets thrown into exactly that kind of chaos. It's amazing how it shines a light on, what really matters when life gets rough.
Right, and it makes us think about how we understand those storms, those misfortunes, and maybe even where we actually end up versus where we thought we were going.
We're talking about the Apostle Paul's voyage to Rome. This is back in the first century. He's a prisoner, actually.
Yeah, and his big plan, his ambition, was to get to Rome, stand before Caesar, and basically share his message at the heart of the empire. That was the goal.
So the account of this journey, it's incredibly detailed. We're going to unpack the twists, the turns, and what it might teach us about navigating our own life storms. We're drawing heavily today from some really insightful reflections on this account, particularly a message from Pastor Peter that explores these themes. We'll make sure a link to the full message is available for you.
Our goal really is to sort of sail through those turbulent waters with Paul and see what timeless lessons we can pull out for ourselves, for those times when we feel lost at sea.
Okay, so let's set the scene. Paul's heading to Rome, big stakes, trying to reach the center of power. Why Rome specifically? What was the thinking there?
Well, Rome was the center, the capital of the empire. The idea was if you could make an impact there, if you could speak to Caesar, that influence would ripple outwards. It's a very human drive, isn't it? Get to the top, influence the influencers.
And how did the voyage start out? Was it rough from the beginning?
Actually, no. Quite the opposite. The account mentions a gentle south wind. So initially, it was smooth sailing. You can imagine the crew feeling pretty good, optimistic even, making good time.
Like those moments in life when everything just seems to click right.
Well,
Feels like you're definitely on the right track.
Exactly. You feel confident, things are effortless. But, sometimes that easy path isn't actually leading where you truly need to go, even if it feels right at the time.
And then the shift, this northeastern wind, it sounds violent.
Oh, it was. Not just a breeze changing direction. This was a proper tempest. A Euroclydon, some translations call it. Fierce, chaotic. It basically grabbed the ship.
So they lost control.
Completely.
Yeah.
Couldn't steer, couldn't head into the wind. They were just driven, disoriented. And the interesting thing is, Paul apparently saw trouble brewing earlier.
He did.
Yeah, he'd been shipwrecked before, remember? He had experience with the sea. He actually warned them, suggested they should stay put in a safe harbor before this leg of the journey.
But they didn't listen.
Nope. The captain and the owner wanted to reach a better winter harbor. Their plan, their convenience, kind of overrode Paul's warning. It's a classic example, isn't it? How sticking rigidly to our plan can blind us to danger signs.
Okay, so the storm hits. It's raging. What happens to the priorities on board? They were carrying cargo, right?
Yes, grain.
Yes, grain. Likely the main commercial reason for the voyage, the potential profit. But when survival is on the line,
Goes overboard.
first thing, they start jettisoning the cargo. Suddenly, that financial goal, the whole point of the trip from a business perspective, becomes completely secondary. Survival first.
Wow. That's quite a shift. It really makes you think, what's the grain in our lives? The stuff we prioritize, maybe financially or career-wise.
Exactly. What seems so crucial in calm seas might suddenly look very different when the storm hits. What do we cling to, and what are we willing to let go of for something more fundamental? Like just staying afloat.
And it didn't even stop with the cargo, did it?
No, it escalated. They started throwing the ship's tackle, the equipment, overboard too. The essential stuff. Tools for sailing.
The very tools needed to navigate and manage the ship. Imagine how desperate they must have been. Anything to lighten the load, to give them a fraction more chance of riding out the storm.
And then the account says they lost sight of the sun and stars for days.
Yeah, think about that. No sun, no stars. That was their GPS back then. Complete darkness, disorientation. Utterly lost, physically and probably emotionally too. They'd given up hope, the text says.
But then Paul steps in. Amidst all this despair, he brings a totally different message.
He does. He stands up and basically says, look, take heart. We're going to lose the ship, yes, but not a single life will be lost. It's this incredible moment of assurance.
Where does that assurance even come from? Everything around them screams disaster.
It comes from his faith, his conviction. He speaks of an angelic message. But the key point is the shift in value. The ship, the cargo expendable, human life precious to be saved. It fundamentally reframes the entire crisis.
It really forces a question, doesn't it? When everything seems lost, what or who do we truly trust? What becomes the non-negotiable?
Precisely. What's the real anchor when the physical anchors are gone? Is it the equipment we rely on day to day, or something deeper, the lives involved?
Now, the story also touches on this common belief back then, this idea that bad things happen because you did something wrong. Divine payback, essentially.
Right, divine retribution is a very prevalent way of thinking. If catastrophe struck, people often assumed it was punishment for some hidden sin.
Yeah.
And let's be honest,
That idea hasn't totally disappeared, has it?
not at all. You still hear echoes of it, people facing hardship and others whispering, or even thinking, well, what do they do to deserve this? It's a way to try and make sense of suffering, I suppose. Find a reason.
A moral reason. Which makes the incident on Malta even more striking. They finally shipwreck, right? On this island.
Yes, Malta. And Paul gets bitten by a viper, a venomous snake. He's gathering firewood, and this thing latches onto his hand.
And the islanders see this.
They do. And their immediate reaction, based on that retribution mindset, is, this man must be a murderer. He escaped the sea, but justice won't let him live. They're waiting for him to swell up and die.
But he doesn't. He just shakes the snake off into the fire. No harm done.
Exactly. And then what happens? The islanders completely flip their opinion. 1 minute he's a condemned murderer getting his cosmic comeuppance, the next.
They think he's a god.
It's such a dramatic illustration of how flawed that simple cause and effect judgment can be. His survival completely upends their assumptions about why bad things or near bad things happen.
It suggests life, and maybe the divine is a lot less straightforward than you do bad thing happens immediately.
It certainly opens the door to more nuance, doesn't it? Maybe suffering isn't always direct punishment. Maybe there are other purposes, other stories unfolding that we just don't see right away. It challenges us not to jump to conclusions about misfortune.
Which brings us neatly to this idea of the unexpected destination. Rome was the plan. The clear, strategic goal.
The goal. The place Paul felt called to. The place he was aiming for with all his energy.
But the storm completely scuttles that plan. They end up shipwrecked on Malta, a place they likely never intended to visit.
An unplanned detour, forced upon them by disaster. You'd think it would just be a miserable waiting period trying to survive until they could get another ship.
But that's not what happens, is it? This detour becomes something else entirely.
It becomes this incredible period of ministry. Paul ends up staying there for 3 months. He heals the father of the chief official on the island. Then others come, and he heals them too. He shares his message. This apparent catastrophe turns into a major opportunity for connection and service.
It's amazing. The place he was forced to go, the place that represented the failure of his plan, become a place of significant impact.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What if the disruptions in our own lives, the things that feel like shipwrecks throwing us off course, what if they're actually leading us somewhere important, somewhere we wouldn't have reached otherwise?
A redirection, not just a disruption.
Possibly. It kind of reminds me of that modern analogy you sometimes hear, the untrained passenger who, in an emergency, somehow manages to land the plane with guidance from the tower.
Right, feeling totally unprepared, plans in ruins, but somehow guidance comes and you land safely, maybe even somewhere unexpected, but ultimately okay or even good.
Exactly. It raises these big questions. What if the destination we have in mind isn't the ultimate one? What if the Holy Spirit, as Paul might frame it, has a different itinerary for us?
What if saving people, connecting with people, is more important than sticking to our original agenda? What if God is actually working in the storm, not just rescuing us from it?
And Paul's own perspective reinforces this. At one point during the storm, he tells the others about his vision, saying the God whose I am and whom I serve assured him. His ultimate identity and allegiance weren't tied to the success of his trip to Rome,
but to his relationship with God. That was his anchor, regardless of the circumstances or the destination.
That sense of belonging, that sense of service, transcended the storm and the shipwreck. It suggests we should maybe be open to the Spirit's leading even, or maybe especially, when it seems to pull us away from our carefully laid plans.
So, wrapping this up, this ancient journey offers so much. We see priorities shifting dramatically under pressure from profit and plans to people.
Yeah, and we see the limitations of assuming misfortune is always simple payback. It challenges us to look deeper.
And maybe most powerfully, we see how a total disaster, a shipwreck, can unexpectedly lead to a new, meaningful destination, a place of service we never planned for but perhaps were needed in.
It really encourages openness to where life's storms might actually be taking us, guided by something beyond our own navigation.
It's definitely food for thought. And again, much of this perspective is echoed in Pastor Peter's message on this passage, which really dives into these themes beautifully. You can find the link in our show notes if you want to explore it further.
Definitely worth checking out.
So here's a final thought for you, the listener. Think about a time your own plans got completely derailed. A personal storm. What changed for you? What priorities shifted?
Did you, perhaps looking back now, see any unexpected opportunities arise from that? Any unforeseen landings that turned out to be significant, even if difficult at the time?
Could it be that what felt like being blown off course was actually a course correction? Something to ponder?
Absolutely.
Well, if this deep dive got you thinking, please consider subscribing. We love exploring these kinds of stories and the surprising insights they offer. Join us next time.